Alrighty, guys. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on what class you are in. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Some of you all were saying that I sounded different on these. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm calm and not as yelling as much. And some of you kind of said I was a little cringy, or these were a little cringe-worthy. So, regardless, hope you enjoyed them. Some classes did better than others, obviously. 8th period, you all are my rock stars right now. So if you're listening to this, don't blow it, right? You all have done so well. Other classes, you all need to improve, and hopefully we will do that. Hopefully everyone has what they need. I talked with some students. A lot of you seem to enjoy these much better than what we have done before, due to it's not as noisy. You kind of go at your own pace. And again, it's not as much writing as what we normally do. So today, we're going to look at Justinian and Theodora right before our benchmark. For those of you who don't know, our social studies benchmark will be next Monday. So a week from today, we will have our social studies benchmark. So you basically have 3 big tests before your state tests at the end of the year. This will be your first one, and it will be everything Roman Empire. But this will be our last lesson before we start getting into review for the benchmark. So again, hopefully everyone cooperates. If you have a question anytime, raise your hand. Please don't blurt out, right? Because that can only distract those who are trying to work, and I appreciate those of you who have tried to work. So I'm going to stop rambling and get on with the lesson. This one should not take as long as the first one, so hopefully we're good, and we'll move on into the assignment. All right, bell work, we should have already went over. So we are moving on. All right, so make sure, again, we know the vocabulary. That a large part of that will be on your test, so just kind of review. If you want to try and remember these from some other way than just memorizing them. So, for example, like looking at the Byzantine Empire, you can show your muscles. This is just the option for you that I'm throwing out there. All right, so these are some of the rules at Whitworth Buchanan. If you can't see some of them, that's fine. What I want you to look at is the first set of rules. All right, so we're here. Again, yes, there's no students in the class. So I'm talking to no one right now. Some of you thought that was really funny. I guess it is kind of funny, but I'm just talking to myself. But now you are listening, so haha. All right, so this is the first list of rules for Whitworth Buchanan. All right, so if you were going to read over these, all right, you can do it, no problem. All right, so let's look at this list. All right, let's look at this list. Which list would you rather look at? All right, option 1. So on your notes, and I don't have a handout for you, so that again, you should have already, part of your bell work was to make a new page, first clean page in your binder, but would you rather go with option 1 or option 2? All right, write that down right now. If you were going to read these rules, would you rather read option 1, option 2? All right, so it's nice and organized here. This one just lists the options. All right, no sort of title, no sort of organization. All right, so hopefully you set option 2 as it's a little bit more organized. All right, it's got broken down the dress code, the car rider drop off. It's got tardies to class, return to school, athletics, and the Whitworth way. Where option 1, just a bunch of lines, not as organized. So that's what we're going to talk about with Justinian today. And how he changed and he left a legacy on the Roman Empire. All right, so again, these are more rules that you could have been able to answer looking at the rules, and it would have taken you a lot less time looking at option number 2 versus option 1. All right, so hopefully everyone sees that. So that brings us to, again, we're reviewing just a little bit. Roman Empire split into the Western Roman Empire and into the Eastern Roman Empire. All right, Eastern Roman Empire went into the also known as the Byzantine Empire. So looking up here into the blue, and I'll read some of this for you because I know you can't see it. We have our map that we just looked at, that we just labeled earlier last week. Now we have all these invasions. All right, and the Roman Empire is getting smaller. You see East Germanic tribes coming from the north. You have Persian tribes coming from the east, and these groups are starting to come in and take part of the Roman Empire. All right, so let's just kind of review with what we talked about in Constantine and being able to take over the Roman Empire. But this guy we're going to look at today is Emperor Justinian. All right, emperor known as Justinian the Great, emperor for almost 40 years, which again was a long time that we looked at last year, as we had 22 emperors in 50 years. So the idea that he could just come in and have some consistency was great for the Romans, as they've had so many changes, not really sure who to listen to. Certain groups like this one guy, other people like this other guy. So this was a problem for Roman Empire that was fixed because he was consistent. He was there for almost 40 years. I recognized how disorganized the law was. So this is why I had you look at the rules. All right, the first set of rules, they're disorganized. The second set, much easier. So he recognized how disorganized the law was and hired scholars to reform it, creating a simpler and better code of laws. This is one of your vocabulary words, Justinian Code. All right? Became the basis for all Western law, clarified the buying and selling of goods, addresses marriage, freemen versus slaves, and inheritance. Justinian, like emperors before him, was very interested in arts and architecture and education, and we'll get more into that here in just a minute. Built many churches, forts, and palaces. The most famous being the Hagia Sophia, standing for Holy Wisdom. All right, so we see this here today, all right, on the inside. All right, you see people down at the bottom there, still tourists that you can see today. All right, so again, very big in architecture, very big into advancing things like architecture, education, and built many churches along the way. All right, this being the most famous. All right, so Byzantine Emperor Justinian. First thing we're going to talk about is education. All right, he was also concerned about education. Learning was highly respected in Byzantine culture. All right, a lot of cultures back then, learning was not highly respected. Okay, with the certain groups of people, you were just either a worker, or you were a noble, or you were a serf, or anything like that. Depending on whatever your class was, certain groups learned, certain groups did. But this was a little bit different, where learning was now highly respected. All right, boys went to school and studied religion, medicine, law, math, and grammar. Girls typically did not attend school and receive teaching at home. Again, the focus was more there learning how to keep a home, while the boys went to school and studied religion and things we just talked about, and that will stay that way for a very long time until we get to the end of the year and talk about the Enlightenment. All right, so military. All right, so we talked about how he was into building churches, into arts and architecture. Now we talked about education. Also was big in the military. Justinian wanted to restore the Roman Empire and bring back the glory of Rome. The glory of Rome has went away because of all the Germanic tribes and different groups that have came in and taken that from Rome. All right, conquered territories that were once part of Rome. So that map we just looked at, where Rome was losing territory, he gets it back. All right, we have Italy, parts of Spain, and North Africa, and defeated the Persians, increasing the security of the eastern borders. All right, so Persians came in, Germanic tribes came in, Goths came in. Now you have someone who's taking that back to be part of the old Roman Empire. All right, so Byzantine Empire is in the purple, okay, at Justinian's accession at the beginning, all right, and then territories added by the time of his death. So this is from 527 in the purple, and then on to 565 in the orange. So he got all of this. This looks similar to our map, a little bit more zoomed in, but he got all of this back at the beginning, or by the end of his reign in 565. All right, so Theodora, she is known for being, I think you all call these baddies today. All right, she was Justinian, she was bae, okay? Wife of Justinian, known for being beautiful, intelligent, ambitious. All right, think of Beyonce today, folks. Just kidding, don't think of that unless you want to. All right, participated in government and helped her husband choose government officials. Again, this is very uncommon for back then where, wives supposed to be at home, supposed to not be doing this type of stuff. However, she decides, all right, and Justinian, listening to her, participates in government and helps her husband out. Strong advocate for women's rights, being able to own land. When Justinian was ready to flee during a time of revolt, she encouraged him to stay, thus saving his empire. So, thankfully, he, during the Roman Empire, was going to be a coward. She says, quit being a little baby and let's go do this thing. All right, so that's Theodora. All right, so here's the writing portion. I'll go ahead and put all this up, and then you can go ahead and pause now and write. All right, so again, your title, and these will be the only notes you take today, but your title should be Emperor Justinian, Emperor of Byzantine Empire, 527 to 565. Like we said, almost 40 years. His wife was Theodora. His two major legacies. Justinian's code, laws were confusing before him. They were disorganized, just like the two different papers that I gave you. When he comes to power, his code made them more organized. All right, we have a typo here, so just make sure you put his code there. It made them organized. Hagia Sophia, enormous church in Constantinople. All right, again, so Justinian's code is his major legacy. He also advanced the military, was able to gain parts of Rome back, big into arts, architecture, education, things along those lines. Again, especially the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. All right, so here's where we're going to use our imagination a little bit and what you are going to do. I told you this one wasn't as long. What you are going to do for your assignment in class today and tomorrow. All right, so by AD 476, Roman Empire had disintegrated. Old Roman territories in Western Europe were now controlled by different Germanic tribes. However, in Eastern Europe, a new empire was born. With its capital being Constantinople, it would last for another 1,000 years. The name of this empire was Byzantine Empire. So basically the Eastern Empire, Byzantine Empire, was going to last for 1,000 years, and that was partly due to Justinian and the way he set things up. So your job is Justinian has traveled through time and has arrived in the present-day United States. Always eager for power, he has decided, you know what? I've done this before. I've been a good leader. I'm going to run for president. Due to your skills of persuasion, he has hired you to get his message out to the American people as to why he should be elected. He wants you to make a campaign poster that highlights his qualifications for the job. All right, so focus on his main accomplishments that we just talked about. If you need to look in your book, you can. If you need to go back and rewind this, you can. All right, so you need to include these things over here on the right, and I'll leave this up here. The years he ruled, conquest for territories. Remember, he wants to restore the old empire, preservation of old Roman law code for Justinian, arts and architecture, extending rights to women, and the creation of the alphabet. So you're creating, and education, of course, you're creating a poster that highlights all of these things. I will give you a white sheet of paper. All I need you to do right now is raise your hand whenever you get to this part. I will bring you the white sheet of paper. Once everyone is done, you may be able to talk if I tell you your class can. If not, then you're just going to work on this by yourselves for today and tomorrow. That'll be depending upon how well your class did during this, okay? So I'll remind you of that going forward, all right? So if there's no other questions or if you need to go back and look at something, that's fine. But you should be, at this point now, raise your hand. I will give you a white sheet of paper.